Maryland is the first state in the nation to pause its gas tax as fuel costs have surged nationwide. Governor Larry Hogan signed emergency legislation on Friday to ease consumers' pain at the pump, I should say. Georgia has also announced a gas tax holiday, and more than a dozen states could follow. Joining us right now is Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland. And Governor, thank you for being here this morning. Obviously, higher prices for gas are front and center for just about everyone. This was bipartisan legislation. Why did you all go ahead with this move?
Well, we saw the pain at the pump with the rapidly rising prices that everybody across the country was seeing. And we decided we wanted to take some, urgent, immediate action. And this all came together really quickly. Within a week of us calling on our legislature to act, they passed this unanimously across party lines in both houses. And so here in Maryland, instead of just arguing about who's to blame for it, we decided to take immediate action to do something about it.
It makes sense, and I suppose every little bit helps, but obviously there are people asking some questions about what this might mean. Some critics have pointed out that for the average Marylander who drives 12,000 miles a year in a car that gets about 25 miles to the gallon, they're only going to be saving about $15 over the course of this 30-day savings. And again, every little bit helps, but that does mean that the state's going to have about $100 million shortfall. And I guess that gets to the point of wondering, are you robbing Peter to pay Paul in some way if you are having to make up for those funds elsewhere?
Well, first of all, I think it makes a huge difference to the average consumer. And I can tell you that, the average price across country is something like $4.25. We're down around $3.75. So we're 50 cents a gallon cheaper than most. We have the lowest gas prices, or one of the lowest in the entire country. And I had people all weekend all over the state thanking me because they saw the difference. If they put 10 or 20 gallons into their tank and they got 50 cents a gallon, it was a pretty big deal to them. It really isn't going to impact us because we've turned our state around and gone from a $5.1 billion deficit to a $2.5 billion surplus. We have $3.6 billion in our rainy day fund. We have a AAA bond rating. We could afford to do this. It is about $100 million a month. It's not going to take any money away from any other important programs, and it's not going to take anything away from our infrastructure, which the gas tax is supposed to pay for. We're building, we're improving infrastructure all across the state on every priority project. So I think it's a big deal for consumers. I think a lot of other states are going to do exactly what we did. I can tell you it's overwhelmingly popular. Instead of just arguing about things in Washington, we actually did something.
No, I'm sure it is. I guess my point would be is if there are other states that follow suit and wind up using maybe COVID relief funds for something like that, would you have a problem with it?
I think, whatever we can do to try to help people. I don't know what other states are considering. I just know that we proposed this in a week. It got passed. I signed it into law that day and on Friday, and immediately gas prices came down dramatically and people were very happy about it. It's obviously just a short-term fix, but I think it helps us.
It's a short-term fix, and you all are doing what you can help, obviously. But there are bigger problems here and some bigger concerns about what happens with gas prices overall. What would you like to see happen on a federal level? Because the federal gas tax has not been suspended yet.
Well, I think a big issue is just, we've got to provide for America's energy independence, and we've got to increase production here at home, and so we're not so reliant on foreign countries for our oil. And I was one of 24 governors who signed a letter to President Biden calling for just that, to rapidly change position and to help us increase production, and so we can solve this on a more long-term basis rather than us just taking emergency action at the states.
Governor, let's talk a little bit about cybersecurity. The President Biden warning yesterday that Russia is prepared for cyber attacks on the United States. I know it's something that he is calling on companies to make sure that they are shoring up resources, but I would assume as the governor of the state, you're looking at things too. I know that the Department of Health from Maryland was attacked by a denial of service attack back in December. And from everywhere I hear, it seems like these attacks are stepping up even before some massive launch comes from the Russians. How prepared are you? What are you doing on that front? And what do you see at this point?
Well, it's definitely a serious problem that we're watching very closely. You're right. Health departments across the country were attacked with these kinds of things. They're going after not just large companies and our critical infrastructure, but every federal and state agency across the country. And it's something to be very concerned about. But Maryland is the cyber capital of America. We're home to the NSA and U.S. Cyber Command and NIST. And so we're very focused on that. And Ann Neuberger, who made this announcement yesterday from the White House, is a Marylander and a friend and participated with us on a number of things. And I can tell you our whole team is focused on it. I think the threats are real. And we've been talking about this for a long time about Russia's capabilities. And I think now that Putin's sort of backed into a corner and getting desperate, and we're cutting off his financial supply, taking dramatic actions against him, I think he's going to try to retaliate, and we've got to be prepared for it.
How safe do you feel at this point, and how safe should the average citizen here feel?
I think we're doing everything that anyone can think of to keep us safe. I think businesses are doing it, local and state governments and the federal government, all of our security agencies are working on it. But I'm not convinced that they won't be able to get through. I mean, remember the Colonial Pipeline they shut down on the East Coast was a major problem. We've had attacks in different places. I think they've made some pretty serious threats, and we're aware of them, and we're going to try our best to provide the best defense we can.
Governor, one of the things we've been talking about this morning is the Fed's move to say that it will raise interest rates and do whatever needs to be done to tackle inflation. You made the point that your state's in very good fiscal shape right now, and that's one of the things we've talked about, too. Consumers seem to be very flush. Businesses seem to be very flush, but obviously everybody's worried about what comes with inflation, what comes with things like higher gas prices. When you're kind of looking out across the horizon, what do you see in terms of the tax receipts your state's taking in, both from the consumer perspective, but then on the business front too? And where would you kind of advise, just from where you sit, where do things look?
Well, so our economy is booming, and we've got the fourth best economic recovery in America. We're growing businesses and jobs. We have a huge demand and not enough supply. We've got supply chain issues. Inflation is an issue. Our revenues are up dramatically. So, it puts the state in better fiscal shape. But the costs to the consumers are going up, which is why we've been, like we did on the emergency gas tax legislation. This week, we're trying to finalize eliminating our retirement taxes to ease the burden on folks that are on a fixed income. And we've cut taxes 8 years in a row by nearly $4 billion. And because, I think we want to try to let consumers, like families and small businesses, keep more of their own money in their own pockets so we can grow the economy. But, I think inflation is a major concern. There's no question about that. And it affects, individuals and businesses and state governments as well.
Yeah, it's funny to have such a flush economy and have consumers feeling so on edge about what comes next, businesses too. It's a different time that we're entering.
Governor
Hogan,
good point.
Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much.